He is their future. Does it pay to really rush him back to make sure he's all set for week 1?
No, I don't think they're going to rush him back, but I think that it is on the board, especially when you have someone like Nick Foles. It's easy to err on the side of, we'll take some time to start him. I think he'll be there week number 1, but you have to look at their schedule. It's always a big night when you're the defending champ playing on that Thursday night, kicking off the season. But then their schedule after that is they go to Tampa Bay, Indy, and at Tennessee. Yep. I don't believe that to be the most important part of their schedule. Now, they got a brutal schedule. But when they get into the month of October, they need their best players out there on the field.
Tell America what they have right after those opening 4 you just said.
Let's just do a little tough. Minnesota, New York Football Giants, Carolina, Jacksonville. Yeah. So that's a gauntlet that might be tougher than a Super Bowl run if they don't get home field advantage.
Right.
That's the kind of teams they're going to have to beat. So I believe he will be there at the beginning with the type of knee injury he's have. Typically, we have seen quarterbacks or other players, they were ready week number 1. Now, I could understand, too, maybe caution a little bit so people like Dusty and other Eagles fans and everything, they're like, oh, man, he might not be. But I think he will be there. But they still do have the guy that was the MVP of the Super Bowl, so they have a luxury. And when you look at Philadelphia's staff, the roster, that's one of the things that you have to bake into that. Man, they lost key players last year. They are deeper this year, and they have the playoff and the Super Bowl experience, and as Nick would say, the best backup situation in pro football. So if you have that, you have a great roster, why wouldn't you just allow the natural healing process to take place? I believe he'll be there week number 1, but because their roster is so strong.
And because also, when we're talking about will he not be there week 1, every day matters. The Eagles start the season before anybody else other than Atlanta. They started 3 days early. After week 1, they then have, of course, that little mini bye week from the Thursday night game. September 6th is when they start. They don't play again until September 16th. And you mentioned you can kind of ease him in to the season if such a thing exists. I know there's no West Alabamas you get to play, but there's a difference between, as you illustrated, their September schedule and their October schedule. I think everyone, though, should be cautious with expecting Carson Wentz to pick up exactly where he left off. We saw just a year ago 2 young quarterbacks, one playing at an MVP level, one playing the best football of his career, by the way, as a 2nd overall pick in year 2, and that was Derek Carr and Marcus Mariota. Those guys both got injured late in the 2016 season, and then their 2017 results were nowhere near what their 2016 results were. Derek Carr was on pace to potentially win the MVP. Last year was a down year. Marcus Mariota was an ascending. This is exactly what we thought he would be, a 96 quarterback rating in year 2. Last year, he was nothing close to that. Now, even if you don't think Carson Wentz is going to have that type of regression, even if you think Carson Wentz is a higher caliber talent than either of those guys.
Most people do.
Right, which I think most people do, and I think he illustrated it last year. Last year, Wentz played better than either of those guys have ever played in their careers. So even if you just bake in a little bit of regression, which I think is fair, most guys don't do what Aaron Rodgers did, which is at age 30, get injured, and then at age 31 have arguably the greatest season of his career. Like most guys, Brady, the year after the injury was a down year in comparison, and then he got back to being Tom Brady.
Would you call it regression, though? Could you account for, I don't know, some sort of adjustment period, a little bit of rust coming off the injury you had to just get thrown back in? Would it take a couple games for him to get his timing, the rhythm back, the relationship with the receivers? Does that factor in at all, Sid?
Carson Wentz is a superstar. All right? He's going to be a superstar, and I believe he'll be a superstar in week number 1. I mean, he is a horse. He is a great athlete, and he has the type of offensive weapons around him and the protection, so the confidence in the offensive line. If he had a spotty offensive line, if he didn't have 3 running backs the way he does have, if he didn't have 3 veteran receivers, which he does have, yeah, I might be concerned, which Derek Carr didn't have those things. Marcus Mariota didn't have those things. And all of them went through adjustments as far as coaching changes, coordinators and everything. So all the things Carson Wentz, he doesn't have. He has a stable franchise, All right? He's got a guy behind him in the backup who don't want to be the starter and realizes he's a stud. He's got a young, up-and-coming coach. He's got the support of the organization. And you know what else that Tennessee and Oakland didn't have? He didn't have a great defense. So he can sit back, he can hand the ball off, he can come back gradually. They can expand this offense as time seems fit, but I believe that's going to be week number 1. Carson Wentz is going to be a superstar and continue to be a superstar in this league for a long time.
So you're of the belief he's going to have more the trajectory of a guy like Drew Brees, who the year after his major injury had the best year of his career up to that point.
We don't have any evidence that we could present to people to say that Carson Wentz, the reason why he's going to go backwards. All right? He doesn't have the support in cast. He doesn't have the organizational support. Like, he's going to rush himself back. No. Doesn't have a defense who's going to get turnovers and short fields to play on. No, we don't see those types of things. So why would we expect him to go backwards? I haven't seen anything or any really concrete thing to make me think that, oh, he's going to go back. No, I don't see that.
Listen, and I'm not assigning it to him. I do think that when you haven't seen a guy play since injury, I think all you can do is take historical examples of it. And there
Odell Beckham.
Okay.
Watch how he's going to go backwards.
Well, sure. So that's an example of a guy.
Yeah, he's not going nowhere. He's going to be a superstar in this league for a long time, too. These injuries,
so yeah, that's
most athletes come back from, let alone our best athletes. All right, Carson Wentz is not just a quarterback. He is a great athlete. Odell Beckham is not just one of the best receivers in the NFL. He is a ridiculous athlete, and those type of athletes bounce back from these very, very common injuries that both of these guys have.
I was just going to ask, the ACL, the LCL, that is an injury you can recover fully from. Come back to your old self.
In 2018, yeah. I mean, we've come a long way in the last 20-some years on how people recover from it. I think people saw I don't want to say it wasn't a gruesome injury, but just the impact of the injury. It wasn't like people have, because we saw Carson Wentz get hurt and we saw the impact.
Tom Brady had a more significant injury. A guy hit him frontal while he was in the pocket with his knee planted. And that's the same position he is in for almost every throw. Tom Brady is not the athlete of Carson Wentz. And if Tom Brady could get back now, it was later in his career. Aaron Rodgers was injured later in their career. All right, but Carson Wentz is as good an athlete as Aaron Rodgers, if not better, and we know there's no question as far as athleticism versus Brady.
All right, let's take a... Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.